Hello and welcome everybody. This is Lon Lily, and yeah, this is going to be the kind of pilot episode of this new podcasty. I don't even know if I want to call it a podcast type of series where just simply, we talk about Orie here. If you don't know who I am, that's perfectly fine. I doubt I would know who I am either if I just looked on the internet. But yeah, I'm the main chord BBTAG Orie specialist and just someone who really enjoys playing this character within the sphere of BBTAG. And the reason why I decided to kind of like do this type of series now is just somebody in the main core, I think it was specifically Mason, was just like we're bringing up ideas for like making a some tier list videos, at least just to help out and like explain some stuff about just Ori and BB Tag, and just suggested, why not make it a podcast series? And then it's just like, sure, why not? So this is kind of a very experimental, very kind of, I want to at least make it be very chill. This is like almost entirely unscripted on my part for this first episode. What's it gonna be about? Well, the first idea I came up with just for the pilot is, an Ori BB Tag moved tier list video. And, normally in the future, I'm planning on getting, like, a couple guests on, another couple of my fellow Orie players, but for now, just want to do the first one all by myself. And yeah, like I said, very experimental. I don't know how well this will go. If it if it'll flop horribly, I don't know. But as long as you enjoy it, I'm happy. So yeah, let's get on with the main thing here, which is going to be this wonderful tier list that we will be all working on. Let me get that music on. Thank you, Arknight. Shout out to Arknights. We're, in the main chord, we were joking that this podcast might devolve into just gotcha talk. I'll try to avoid that, but for now, I'll just put on the Arknight music and we'll get to this kind of tier list video. So, as you see here, we have the good old classic S through D style tier list. S obviously meaning like, Orie's best moves. Usually the go-to moves for like neutral, like maybe even pressure buttons. I should specify at least on the way that this is actually going to be like every available button Orie has, including like auto combo buttons, specials, like Rekka specials, even her supers and assists. So, generally this tier list is, if it is like a start of an auto cutter button, like, let's say 5A here, I'm mostly going to talk about how good it is for like neutral game, and not so necessarily much how good it is in pressure. Of course, that'll be like a pretty heavy aspect, or not heavy aspect, it'll be an aspect of it, but like for the most part, when I say those types of buttons are good for or bad for this specific purpose, I'm talking most about neutral game. That the same thing about the like specials and everything. Of course, assists in reference to how generally good I think they are as assists. And for the buttons that are kind of tied to auto combos, I'm mostly going to be talking about how good they are for pressure, because I mean that's the main application of them. I hope I explained that right. Like I said, this is mostly unscripted. So yeah, let's get on into the good old classic 5As. Definitely going to be starting out with the normals up here. And yeah, 5A is it's a troll button. Not for the other for the other player, for the Orie player themselves, because it has a very inaccurate hitbox, or like visually, and it's doesn't go as long as you would like it to. Because of that, it's just like you get some of those moments where it's just like, damn, that 5A really just passed through him. It's just like, it's just a top button. But in terms of like just the actual button in and of itself, it's like, it's okay, it's fine, it's like definitely like middle of the pack when it comes to just like general buttons in this game. I should specify I'm not rating these buttons in comparison to other characters, but more like like comparing Orie buttons to themselves. So it's just like, obviously, if you compare Orie 5A to like Weiss or Narukami 5A, it's like this is C tier. But just because I'm trying to rate them within the scope of Orie's move list herself, yeah, I think just for the most part, solid B tier button. It reaches decently far. It's an okay poke. It does its job. It's just sometimes it just doesn't feel like it does its job. It's got like decent frame advantage for pressure. It's jump cancelable on block, so it's good for that too. Like it's just a like nice solid like poke button, not something that you necessarily will trust for the aforementioned reasons, but like it's good solid B tier button. I definitely think there's better buttons in Orie's move list. But speaking about kind of inconsistent button 5AA, like I said earlier, this is going to mostly be reference to how good it is for pressure. Honestly, if this was a standalone button, easy A tier. I don't think it would be as good as like Weiss 5A or Narukami 5A, just for the simple reason there's this like weird thing with Orie 5AA where it whiffs full or max range against crouching opponents, or at least like some of the like medium to smaller range characters, and as a result it can be kind of an inconsistent button to have to use for pressure, despite how long it reaches. It it can come sometimes be like, oh yeah, I hit a max range 5A and I try to 5A and then it just whiffs, and it's just like, wow, this button kind of sucks. And like when you, even if you are in that mid range area, it's like nothing that special. It's like I have the sleep. It's that's like freaking -8 non-jump cancelable. I will say the one nice thing about it is a grab cancelable move, and that can catch people off guard. You can do some like kind of snazzy setups where you do delayed throw, so there's that going for it. But for the most part, if you're just kind of using it for pressure, it's just like, yeah, it's very underwhelming. It has that caveat where it wisps max range and everything, and it's just like, yeah, I've never been impressed with 5A. Please, Arxis, if you make it a 3.0, just make this our 5A. And maybe like increase the vertical hitbox to hit a little bit more downward, please, and then like this character suddenly gets a lot better. But yeah, that is 5A out of the way, and now we got the 5AAA. This move, if you've like kind of been around the Orie sphere for a while now, you know this move is kind of a troll move. For just one simple reason. It's kind of a specific reason too. It's like when you're in the corner, and you happy birthday someone, this move normally, which moves you forward, actually starts moving you back, and you start ruining your combos because of that. So like it's horrible for stabilizing happy birthday, specifically in the corner, and even sometimes mid screen. There's some hoery that happens mid screen too. But besides that, that kind of niche scenario, it's still like, it's a serviceable pressure tool. It's definitely still in C tier. Maybe not better than 5A just because it's not grab cancelable. It's really nice for like kind of moving you forward and making sure that you can maintain your pressure, because I guess spoiler alert for 5B. 5B generally doesn't line up well with your other pressure buttons, and sometimes if you say do 5AA, you want to go to 5B, it'll just straight up whiff because 5B doesn't go that far despite moving her forward. It's like, ugh, I hate it. I'll rant about that when we get to 5B. But so it's nice for that. The trade-off is that it's a very punishing push block point, because if you just push block 5AA and the Orie player commits to 5AA, you're kind of left out to dry. It has a very like sizable amount of recovery alongside with the active frames. Like with those combining, it gives you like very, very long time to like punish it. So it's just like you have to be careful of that. So it's just like it has that nice thing where it stabilizes your pressure strings and making sure that you actually, don't whiff 5B, but at the same time it has that thing where it's a very risky point because it's just a push block, and I don't want to talk about the hitbox. Look at this thing. It's so inaccurate, and like for the most part, I don't think it matters that much. There hasn't been a scenario where I do like 5AA and just 5AA just whiffs completely. So there's nothing like that. So I can't really knock it off too many points with that, but it sucks sometimes because a lot of people run. Well, I guess another thing is like a lot of people push block and just straight up just run into 5AA again because they forget that she moves forward like that. But that's not something I think that's super reliable or anything. But if this hitbox was bigger, I think that would be a more of a reliable thing. Which, once again, Orie kind of sucks with their hitboxes sometimes. But what's the deal with Orie hitboxes, man? Uni hitboxes, I guess. But I digress. I'm ranting on for a bit. But yeah, the hitbox being like inaccurate like this doesn't matter for the most part. So I'm not gonna knock it off points for that. But still, a kind of okay iffy like pressure button. Definitely has some good, definitely has some bad things. It's okay. It's like it's mediocre C tier. I think definitely worthy. But yeah, moving on from that is definitely probably what's going to be our D tier D tier pick. He's 5AA. Why would you ever use this outside of cross trade? Like super minus unblocked, not even like great AS tool. Like it's pretty much purposeless outside of outside of cross raid. It's just like, yeah, D tier. And even as a cross raid tool, it's very slow. So a lot of like scaled combos will just straight up not combo into this, and it's like really annoying in that regard. It's just like, man, I wish this thing was like 8 frames or something, just so like you don't get the scenarios where you do like a ladder combo, you bring them down, and you're like, oh yeah, I don't have any meter to kill or anything, so I'm going for cross raid, and the 5AA just whiffs, and you're like, damn, this sucks. And it has so much recovery too. I don't think you can get punished for it if you whiff your cross raid, but you're definitely losing your turn at the very least. So it's just like, ugh, god, this button might arguably be Orie's worst move, but that's not saying much because like there's very few characters in this game that have good auto combo enders. I can't think of one off the top of my head. Maybe Azrael. I think Azrael's is like a high or something, but like I don't know. it's bad, but that shouldn't be too surprising. But finally, kind of from the doom and gloom, nothing's been an A tier here. Yeah, let's get on to 2A. And I think 2A is a very good tool. I'm kind of going back on what I said about like kind of being used talking about buttons being used as mostly like a neutral tool for like the buttons you can just use right off the bat, like a button like 2A, because 2A is like pretty much like I guess it has its uses as like kind of an Abari tool, and it's probably Orie's best Abari option. But like it's not super great in that regard. It's fine. It does its job as an Abari tool, but mostly just for pressure options. It's one of Orie's better like pressure tools because like it's jump cancelable, very good for that. Gatlin's into itself 3 times, good for people like kind of mashing super or up back just for catching them. Rebeatable. It's a very good rebeat option from like pretty much everything. Like go to just because it's like only -5 unblock, which doesn't sound that good for for most characters, but like for Orie, it's one of her best frame advantages. Like god, her frame advantages if you don't rebeat are so horrible. The only problem it has is it's kind of it doesn't reach too far, but that's not too big of a deal. I think with rebeat pressure, like 5AA, 2A kind of can catch people off guard and stuff, and it can have like those pseudo plus frames and everything. Leads well into like TK2, J214A. I can say the same about 5A2, but especially so since you can pepper in so many 2As. It's just like, oh yeah, what am I going to overhead here? Since you can just do another 2A or something and maybe catch them off guard with an overhead. But yeah, I think it's just a incredibly good pressure tool. Arguably, I think Orie's best pressure tool. And yeah, I don't know what else to say about it. Well, it's a horrible starter, but I'm not considering like how good a starter is when I'm ranking these moves really. But yeah, it's notorious for having the freaking 3K. If you do like the 2AA starter combo, just like, oh yeah, sick 3K combo. Yo, I spent meter like barely 5K. I don't even think you reach 5K if you do 2AA starter. So it's just like, man, this is a really horrible starter. But like I said, that's not going to be too huge of an issue with determining how good I think a move is. But yeah. Let's get into 5B. And 5B, this might be a controversial pick, but I just think straight up that this button is bad. I like I said before, with kind of pressure, well, let me get on to the neutral part of it too. For neutral, this button's useless. There is no reason to do 5B in neutral. It's like 12 frame, relatively slow. It doesn't even like reach that far. Like, it's like, sure, it hits up a little bit, but like you have 2B for that if you want some more vertical coverage. Doesn't even reach that far, even with the like her moving forward with it. 21 frames per recover. It kind of sucks to whiff. I mean 5A also kind of sucks to whiff too, but it's not nearly as punishing, I think, as 5B. And not to say like 5B is super uber punishing or anything, but it's just like it sucks if you accidentally get it, because you can definitely feel how slow it is. Like I said, 12 frames, just no reason to use it for neutral. But for pressure too, I just also think this button is bad. It's always one of those things where it's like, I never feel good using 5B because it's so hard to line it up with your other specials unless you immediately go into it, like 5A, 5B, and I've never really liked that pressure string just because like I don't like going into the 5B string that early. I'd rather like mix some up stuff with like 5AA 2A rebeats or 5A 2B rebeats. 5B is or even 5A 2C, just so like to get like maybe catch them off guard with a launcher. And that's actually way more consistent, I found, compared to 5B from catching from like longer ranges too. So when it comes to 5B, in terms of pressure, I'll get to that too, where it's just like I mentioned earlier, it's just like, man, it never reaches when I do freaking long range attacks into it. It's just like always whiffs, and I'm always left in a bad situation. It's nothing special. Even if it does hit, it's like, hell, it's -8. It's like not good for that regard, just because if you just let it rip, it's like the frame advantage is so horrible. And by this point I've probably also used 5A too, so it's just like I can't repeat into that. And thank God for 2A, or else this button would actually be unsalvageable because of that. But I think the only benefit it really has is it can go into 5BB, which I think is actually like a pretty decent reset pressure option. But 5B by itself, I think it's just bad. No neutral use. Bad for pressure because it gets outspaced really easily. Not really even good if it hits. The only thing I think it's good for is it's her best usable starter, but I'm not really valuing how good of a starter it is, like I said, or else 2A would have gone maybe in B tier. Maybe a controversial opinion, but I just straight up don't think that 5B is good. I think it's her worst normal coming out of like just worst normal that she can just use on the fly. So it's just like a 5BB. On the other hand, I touched upon this a little more on the 5B section, but I don't I don't know if I want to say it's C or B tier, because I genuinely think that this is a little, maybe, I don't know if it's underrated per se, but it's a little bit of a hidden gem within Orie's 5B string. I'm a bit torn on this one. For right now, under the pretext is that, like, yeah, like, comparing it to other pressure options as opposed to like neutral options, I'm gonna put this in B tier, low B tier for now. Like I said earlier, -4. Actually, Orie's best frame advantage off normal. It's the same as freaking 5C. So, like, God, like 5BB being the same frame advantage as 5C. If you just let it rip, it's like, ugh. God, why? But I digress. -4 leads into frame trap into 5 BBB, since those two are gaps, so you can definitely catch people off guard, like mashing there. Because it is like a reset or reset pressure point, when you kind of layer pressure and start conditioning your opponent to start mashing there, 5 BBB can be like a good place to do that. I guess that's how good 5BBB is, but like still, that's part of the part of the strength of like 5BB is just having that ability to be -4 and like kind of reset your rebeat pressure options off that. And of course, you know, you still have access to your other moves in case you would just want to go into like 2C or anything. Like, it's just a very flexible button. It does a lot for pressure. Yeah, I don't know what more to say. It's just like it's nice. It's just a very nice move to just sometimes do. It almost makes 5B worth using in pressure. Yeah. I don't know if that means I should move 5B at least to C tier, because it is a prereq for 5BB, which I value at least decently higher. I think that's fair. I think that, yeah, 5B, you're not maybe D tier just because you go into 5BB. That's about it. I don't think I don't know if I've mentioned this yet, but I'm also not counting these moves for like how good they are for combos. Just because I don't think that's usually relevant to talk about how good a move is. But yeah, there's a lot of moves definitely here that are good for combos. 5B one of them, obviously, for the pressure, and you know, it leads into your launcher and stuff. But I digress once again. 5BBB is also probably gonna get the C tier treatment. As nice as it is as like kind of a natural frame grab from 5BB, that's not like something that I think is necessarily that amazing. Also, this is technically Orie's best starter, but like if you get this starter, they were mashing, and you definitely deserve it. But 5BBB by itself is just kind of an underwhelming move, I think. Also suffers from like it's -8 syndrome. It is not that useful because of that. And if I remember correctly, you can't actually rebeat this into like 2A at all. Yeah, so post Lonely here, that's not true. You can rebeat 5A and 2A from 5BB. It's just that after a while, if you just let the recovery frames of 5BB rock, You can't cancel into 5A or 2A. I don't know why this is a thing, but that's what I was remembering here in this video. So yeah, just ignore that. All. Like you can do 5BBB2A, but I don't think you can do 5BBB2A. I remember you can do that on you can do that in a combo, but you can't do it on block for whatever reason. I might be capping on that, but even if that was the case, I don't think it would salvage 5BBB that much. Oh, it's not even -8, it's -9, so it's even worse than 5B. I think the only reason I'm not really putting this in D tier because it's not nearly as bad as 5AA. It's just such an underwhelming move. I can't remember the last time I've seen another Orie player use this on block outside of maybe like sandwiches sometimes because it is gapped, but I think most people just use 236B. If anything, I think the 5BB might be an accident for 5BB. Yeah, there's just not a lot of uses for it. I can't really think of any. Yeah, I'm just gonna place it at the low end of C tier. Take a sip of water if you any water enjoyers listening. I hope there's water enjoyers listening because water is good. Anyways, ranting on again. All right, let's get on into 2B. And 2B, definitely an incredibly goated button. I think almost borderline S tier. I might have to bring that later, but as an anti-air, genuinely one of the better ones in the game. It reaches decently far, like vertical, horizontal reach. It's not horizontal reach, diagonal reach. It's like very, very solid for that. Good for catching jump-ins in that regard, just because it reaches so far. And like surprisingly enough, decent cross-up protection too with it, just because of her notorious Ahoge hitbox. Like, the Ahoge is like low-key a meme, but it's also like part of the reason why this button is so good is just because, like, yeah, you know, gives you additional extra coverage just directly above her, and that would be meaningful, or that would be meaningful. Like, people just being directly above you, or, sorry, people being above you would be a detriment without the Ahoge hitbox because of just the way the anti-air is angled, but because she has that there, she actually has pretty good protection for her dome, and just sometimes that move just crosses up just because of it too. Or it hits people trying to cross you up too. Because of the freaking Ahoge hitbox. Yeah, it's just a very solid, very good anti-air. Has good head invul. What is it? I think it's 5 to 13. Where's 2B? Yeah, 5 to 11. Very, very solid. Actually not that bad of recovery for for an anti-air. 24, I mean, it's nothing to scoff at, but like it's still pretty okay even if you whiff it. Good for catching it, yeah. Good for catching in jump-ins, good for cross-up protection too. The only thing it's bad about, like really bad for, is kind of like grounded pressure. But I think for the most part, you don't really need to be in your pressure, because like, yeah, if you do 2B, much like a lot of like 5B and just randomly in pressure, you're often just whiff and just be like, damn, that sucks. But it definitely just wasn't meant for that, so it's not gonna have too many marks off for it. Yeah, I guess another thing too I should talk about 2B is even if like they block or they just get your jump in blocked, it's good to like, this is a good button to set up air unblockable DPs too. And it still maintains like the good old repeats and everything. So like even if it's blocking you don't hit, it's still very good. Yeah, DP on AS unblockables is very strong. Like the go-to, just because of it reaches in the air. Very good for that. Yeah, definitely one of Orie's best buttons. Let's see, 2C. 2C is definitely what I wish 5B was. Maybe not necessarily the lower aspect of it, but yeah, very, very solid sweep move. Decently fast, starting at maybe not decently fast. It's okay for a sweep 11 frames. I think the most appealing part of it is it's got actually some decently sized range. Like it'll whiff from 5AA max range, but I don't think it'll whiff from 5A max range, and I think that's very nice for pressure. It's a kind of a good move to kind of just check your opponent in pressure. There's not too big of a reason not to. Like sometimes I do 5A, 2C, 2A, just for some pressure, just to see if they're lacking too. Sometimes I do, of course, when I'm a bit closer, because like 2C 5B will definitely whiff. God, I hate 5B so much. 2C 5B is also something I wish 5B was better for, because like goddamn, I wish 2C 5B on block also hit. It suffers from the same problem like 5A and 5AA have, where it's just like it puts you out of range because it pushes you. Well, this one pushes you back a little bit, but yeah, I digress once again. I'll be ranting about 5B so much. I hate that button. Yeah, -7, not the greatest frame advantage, but yeah, very solid sweep to just implement in your pressure against characters that have armor, for example, like Yang, Tager, what other characters? Blitztank. Very good move just to throw it here and there just to check them. Decently active. My music. Yeah, I'm fine with playing that. I get distracted very easily. I'm sorry. Very good check for those types of characters that really just like running up and pressing their armored moves. Just like, hey, put the stop sign down, get that counter hit confirm, and it's a nice starter too. Just because it goes into the double ladder. So it's just a very nice button for those scenarios too, even outside of pressure options, and you can catch people lacking. I know, like, I like to start out some pressure strings with 2C just to check if people are like not blocking low or up backing, because you just get an immediate launcher off it and you can go into a ladder combo. So it's just like nice for that. Yeah. Very, very solid button. Maybe even arguably better than 5A in some areas, but I think for the most part they're about the same. Yeah. I like 2C. Let's see. Oh yeah, good old 5C. I mean, it's a pretty actually like okay like throw bait option. And I mean that's it. This is the notorious. Oh whoops! I meant to EX thrust. I got 5C instead. I'm dead. But I mean that has nothing to do with like, 5C itself. Water. It's just a standard Uni 5C. It has all the same functions of it. -4 on block, so at least when they block it, you don't get hoed. It's a throw bait. Sometimes you do that just for some unburstable damage, which I think does kind of matter for Orie sometimes. Her damage output can be so low, and she has very obvious burst points, so getting 5C counter hit throw baits is like actually like okay. Like, I'm gonna be honest, I might even say that 5C is about as good, if not better, than 5B. Which is like I'm not saying it's good, but it's it might be as good, if not better than them, just because I just think the throw bait ability with it is better than anything 5B provides. I hate 5B so much. This is just going to be the Lon Lily Dunks on Orie 5B podcast. I'll try not to, but every single time I just like it's always there and I have to use it and I hate it. But man, yeah, nothing much I can say about it. All right, here we go. Orie's best button, J. Every Orie player loves freaking pressing this button, and for some goddamn good reason. It's goes very far, covers a really nice angle. The thrust downward is like very good at catching like anything. Good for airs, good for deterring your opponent from approaching. Like defensive j.AA usage is like kind of Orie bread and butter. Like defensive usage like IAD back j.AA, jump up j.AA, IAD back j.AA. You can do like 3 j.As in a freaking air string, or like without extending like all of your air actions. It's like really insane. Like the recovery on it is ridiculously good, so you never really get punished for just throwing it out there. Very active too. I believe 6 frames, 6 frame active, so just very good to throw out there. Put a hitbox on the screen. Yeah, 6 frames. 10 frame startup, not the best necessarily. There's definitely characters with faster air buttons, but outside of like characters like Narukami or Neo, that or 9 that have like super fast goated air buttons, not a lot of characters can actually contest j.AA. So it's very good for that. Very good for starting off pressure just with IAD jump-ins, just because the angle it covers too is just very good for that. Sometimes it doesn't hit crouching opponents, which sucks. But that can usually be solved by delaying it at least just a little bit. Because it's not like they can't hit crouching opponents, it's just sometimes the active frames run out before it reaches the crouching opponent. But that's kind of a minor thing. Yeah, good for starting out pressure. It's like your go-to safe jump option for that type of stuff. God, what more can I say about j.AA? Yeah, good hitbox, good startup, very good recovery, just an amazing move to just throw out. Yeah, there's a reason why this this move is constantly used by Orie players. It's kind of become a meme with her. It's just because, like, yeah, this is kind of one of her only good, like, really great options. Bless it, bless it. Alright, j.AA. As a standalone button, this would actually be very solid. I think it would give her fuzzies, and, like, you know, it never hurts to have more options. But it's not a standalone button, unfortunately. I'd like it to be, but how do I want to rate it? Because, like, j.AA is just like, I use this move when I can get if there's an opportunity to get a triple overhead on somebody, and for that it's like very good. But besides that, there's not a lot of uses for it. I mean, it's an auto combo string, so like it's gonna have niche uses too. But honestly, despite that niche use, I do think that it's when you can get 5A or j.AA off, I usually think it's a good thing. Because yeah, double overhead stuff, it can allow you to triple overhead people with J21 for A. You know, delay it. You know, if you want, you can delay it a little bit for some like sneaky grab setups too off J. The only problem I have with it is like there's genuinely a lot of scenarios where getting j.AA is hard. Like jump-ins, j.AA will just straight up like not come out in time or just straight up whiff, which depending on how you angle it is not necessarily a bad thing for the aforementioned sneaky grab things, but like Yeah, that's like the only main complaint I have with it, honestly. Like this button is actually kind of nice. If you can get it off. I think the main thing and the reason why I'm putting in not into A tier is like I said, it's maybe a bit too niche for it to be A tier. And the fact that it can, if you're just kind of airing people and you do it as from j.A., sometimes it'll just whiff because of the angle you're at. Um, but that's not a huge deterrent, and I think with enough practice you can kind of get out of that habit. So I don't necessarily think that's a mark against it. I just think that's maybe using the move wrong. But yeah. Honestly, God, I was thinking about putting 5A in C tier, but the more I think about it, like, I kind of like this button. I don't get to use it that much, but like when I do, I'm usually impressed with it just because of how good it is for like layering mix and stuff. Because some people just don't expect the second overhead, and I think that's just genuinely powerful. But yeah. All right, JP. JP is actually kind of an interesting button. Uh, I think on the surface, you would ask like, why would I use this move over, let's say, j.A. And for the most part, yeah, there's not a lot of scenarios where you would use JB over j.A. However, the niche that it fills can be genuinely useful given the right matchup, or just a specific playstyle. Uh, the problem with j.A. is that it does hit downwards, and hitting opponents like directly on top of you with Orie can be hard. And I think that's where JP comes in. Like, granted, those scenarios don't pop up too often. There's not a lot of characters that can really get above Orie's head's airspace because of just how good j.A. is, and even if that was the case, some teams just have assists that can help deal with that. But for those situations where you need to deal with someone from up top there, JP's a really good option, like a fantastic option. Like for against Teddy specifically, a lot of Teddy's like throwing items up there. This will actually catch them when you super jump up in JP. So like that's very nice for that. And yeah, like other characters that really like just being in that space, just like sometimes just throw it out there. If you're ascending from a jump too and you're worried j.A. might not just hit just for whatever reason, it's good too. It's I'm not gonna lie, it's like actually like good, decently solid button. Very actually like pretty also insane untech time for an Orie button too. Especially if you get counter hit, so it's like very good to convert off of. Yeah, I'm honest to God, I'm not gonna call it better than 5A, but I'll definitely call it better than j.A. I think it's good. Just because it fills this nice niche that some matchups where if this doesn't exist it would be a lot harder for Orie, but because of the fact that you have this move, it's very nice. And even outside of those niche matchups too, it's just like, yeah, sometimes you need to hit someone above you, and this will do the job. Yeah, so like honest, good button. All right, and we will get on to our last normal, which will be JC, and this is also another one of those just very solid buttons, I think. Like even for neutral, it's not really a strong suit. It's mostly a combo tool. It's decently big. Has two hurt boxes too. Very like fairly active move. It can catch people. It has a decent hitbox. like almost as big as JB. It looks like. Not you really used for the same purpose, granted, because of it's slower. In part of the active frames are down here where it's not really gonna help. More recovery, or actually they have the same recovery. But I digress. Not really used for the same tools, but yeah. Neutral, not really a strong suit. Don't really use it for neutral. But where it really shines is as a cross-up tool. Without this button, Orie would not be able to get any cross-up like mix, like at all by herself, or at least with a a very standard assist. Like very common thing you'll see a lot of Orie players doing pressure just to spice it up is like 2A IAD forward, JC plus assist, and that's just a very nice way to catch people. And that's just thanks to the heal hitbox. So it's very good for that. That's a very strong use case for it. Only problem I have with it is, if you start doing it too much, people started like to anti-air it. It starts getting predictable or just up back air contesting you. But just because you can use it and layered in your pressure, I think it's very, very solid just for that purpose. And of course, it brings them down for the Orie ladder combos and everything. It's a very satisfying move to use. It's very chunky, but yeah, just for its use case as a cross-up tool, I will genuinely probably give. I will give it the B tier treatment. Where if it didn't have that cross-up tool, I'd probably give it the C tier. But just because of that, very good. All right, that is all the normals out of the way. Yeah, let me just double check to see if I agree with any of all of this. Let's see. I really hope this music doesn't get this video copyright strike, by the way. I should have, I'm not gonna play with it. I like that song a lot, but maybe not the best to have in the background. I will. God, DMC we hear. But yeah. Get on to the specials. First off, with the good old DB. Yeah, I think Orie DP is good. I don't know if I want to give it A tier good. It's definitely better than a lot of other characters' DPs. That's for sure. How would I want to rate this button? I'll put it in A tier for now. I think it's a good DP. Good defensive tool, relatively fast, 10 frames, standard, standard, well, I guess not really standard DP, standard, like, Shoto DP, type of deal. Of course, if you get it blocked, it kind of sucks, but that's every DP, basically, except Narukami's, like, hearts or something, but very good at catching people, like, up backing, goes decently far. Kind of a niche use for it too is if you get like the very tip of it counter, you can get rid of it. That doesn't come up nearly as often to make it like a notable trait about it, but it is a thing. Yeah, I just think it's a good defensive option. Good for punishing people up back. Good for setting up DPAS setups. Just good. just good. Yeah, it's just such a standard DP. I don't have much to say about it. I mean, I guess what else is a thing where like people like very top of you. Sometimes it's DP whiz and that sucks, but actually, I think that might suck enough for me to put it in B tier because that does pop up more than I would like like to say. Yeah, I think that's straight up just enough to like put it in B tier. Not like it wasn't a very strong A tier, mind you, but yeah, I think that can make it put into B tier. All right, Orie grab. I mean, it's a grab. I feel like I just have to put it in B tier. All grabs are kind of standardized in tag. I guess this will be the one to I guess this will be the time where I really talk about how good it is for combos, because that's the only thing I can really talk about grabs for. It's a good combo starter. Outside of specifically back throwing in the corner, like throwing them out of the corner, you can't convert off that. But I usually think that's just an input mistake. You should normally be thrown towards the corner, and it's good for setting up corner combos. But like I don't know what I can say. It's a grab. Orie has good grab options thanks to 2A and 5A and like 5BB, but like it doesn't change the fact that the grab is still just a grab. So yeah, it does its job. It does its job fairly well. Yeah. All right. 236A, straight up just D tier. This move has one legitimate use, literally one, and it's not even that great. Its one use is as a frame trap. That's it. It's such a bad move. As a thrust, it doesn't go far at all. It barely goes anywhere. You don't use it as a movement tool. It's really bad at checking people from that range just because of how short it is. It's like not a big button at all. So it's like useless as a movement tool. I guess like also, well, maybe another use case for it is like it can be used as a cross up in sandwiches sometimes, maybe, because it's like it's basically a 5B in that regard, and so it's like I guess it's nice for that because it's better for conversions, but like outside of the frame trapping and in a sandwich, and like Orie already has good options for sandwiches too. So it's not like this is anything too particularly special. It's just like this move is so useless. Like you lose your turn if they block it, -4. Yeah. Definitely hate when I accidentally get this. Yeah. 236B on the other hand, another very solid move. A lot of the teams I personally play do not make good use of this special. I like straight up. But with like a bullet assist, like Narukami 6P or Ruby 6P, very solid like neutral skip option, just in tandem with those. And just because of that, I'll give it the B tier treatment. But besides that neutral skip setup, mostly used as a anti-push block tool, or sometimes a frame trap. Both of those options, I will admit, not really the best for in the grand scheme of BBTAG, but they are anti-push block options, and I think they're okay for that. The awkward thing about using 236B in pressure is that even if you are push blocked far enough, you're actually or they push blocked. If you are right about the push block, sometimes you just do the 236B and you're like, oh sick, I caused the push block, and then you're too far away to convert or like really do anything about it, and you're like, well, this sucks. So it's like it's not even really that great for that. The more I talk about this, the more I'm actually thinking I should probably put it lower in the B tier. It's not C tier. It's definitely not C tier, but I'm just remembering those scenarios where I 236B and I'm just like, damn, I called it out right, but I just can't reach because my buttons are too stubby. So it's not even really good as an anti-push block, and that's more to do so with Orie's other buttons being kind of meh. Yeah. I guess you can do 2-1 for A afterwards too if you push black far away, but yeah, without an assist, that's not really that great. But like I said, very very solid, very good like neutral option, or just trying to get a way to get in. It's just very solid for that. I think I'll put it, since it's less niche, I think, than j.AA. I'll put it above j.AA. I think that's a fair place to put it. All right, 236C. Definitely borderline S, if not just. Actually, I'll put it in S. I was thinking about it. A tier. The reason I wanted to put it in A tier is just because this freaking move is not full screen for some reason. Like, why? I never understood why this was the case. I hate it so much. But if you ignore that aspect of it, this is definitely one of Orie's best moves. Very, very good neutral skip option. Super fast. Like I said, if it reached full screen, it'd be basically perfect. And like, it's very good just to check your opponent from full screen, or well, 3/4 the screen, not full screen. Good for checking them like that. And even if they're blocking it too, this plus assist is like an easy way to get a sandwich. Like, extremely easy. Set up a cross combo with that. It's like no matter what happens, it's good. And with some slower projectile assist, that can also lead into a conversion too. So if it hits, you're good. If they block it, you're in an advantageous situation. By herself, despite this move being plus on block, is not nearly as good as it could be, just because the plus frames tend to be meaningless since you can just up back from it. But with an assist, that's not nearly as big of an issue. And yeah, I think the reason this is definitely not as good as j.AA is just this. The reason why this move is so good is because of like the fact this is a 2v2 game, and it's so good at setting up sandwiches and converting off it with an assist. In case you didn't know, this could also set up a sandwich in the corner too, since it steals it, so it's also incredibly good for that. But yeah, this is like the bread and butter of like using Orie as a partner, is just how easy it is to set up sandwich with this, and the fact that it's also good as a neutral skip option and everything like that is just what makes this button so good. So easy S tier, easy S tier. Water. Alright. Let's get on into 214A. Alright. I am a humongous fan of this button. I think this is low-key underrated. I don't necessarily know if it's underrated by the Orie community, but I genuinely think this is like within the top 3 for Orie buttons. Reason is incredibly big. It's like 1/3 the screen, and the fact that it's like 13 frame startup for that huge of a move, that's very good. That's very good at checking your opponent and controlling space. Of course, you can't combo off it solo, which sucks, but not too huge of a deal. Like, I think mostly you use this as a space control tool, and as a space control tool, I think it's one of the best. Another good thing about it is the fact that this move has follow-ups to it, and we'll get that when we get to the follow-ups and how good they are individually, but the fact that you have options even if this whiffs is incredibly strong. If you can react to the situation at hand, like, for example, they're getting really close to me, I'm just going to do 2-1-4C to get away, do the flip. That's part of the strength of 2-1-4A, is just having those flexible options afterwards, so you're never really that punished for using that move for this move unless they're directly right in front of your face, which is like, yeah, if they're directly in front of your face and you're using this, it's just like, yeah, I used the move wrong. Like, that's unfortunate. That I don't think that has anything to do with how bad the move is necessarily. Um, but yeah, very strong neutral coverage tool. Has the follow-ups just to uh, add additional like options to it afterwards, which are mostly strong. Um, super goated button, super goated button. I don't. I'm still trying to think if it's actually S tier. In my heart, it's S tier. I love using this move, and yeah, I think I put it in A tier just because you can't really convert off it without some specific characters. I'm biased because Yukiko is one of the characters that can really make use of this move very well and like actually get conversions off it decently consistency, assuming you do the right thing afterwards. But I think for most Orie teams, it won't be as relevant as Yukiko, so I'll put it in A. But nonetheless, the other traits I think it has are warranted of A tier. 214B. Yeah, 214B is definitely like it's a good Oki ender. Like it leads into a lot of safe jumps. I don't know if I want to consider how good like how it is for Oki, because this is like one of the go-to Oki enders for or Oki enders for Oki. I actually don't know what you would call that, but like as a neutral button, I've always been incredibly underwhelmed by it. It's super slow. It doesn't even reach a really great angle. It's also one of those notoriously horribly accurate hitboxes for Orie. God, I don't know. I don't think I'll consider Oki too heavily. I'll just rate it based on how good it is for like neutral. Because then I think I would probably put 5BB a bit higher too. Because that's also a good ender. And I guess unironically 5C is also decent. Okay, you know what? I've convinced myself that probably not going to be rating how good it is for Oki. But yeah, that aside, 214B, very slow. It's like good for airspace control. Sometimes, honestly, sometimes I just throw out this move just to see if it works, but I've always been underwhelmed by it. It's also kind of hard to convert off it compared to 214A because it thuds them into the floor, and that unironically gives you less time. Like it's an okay anti-air if like if you're really expecting to jump in, and it also has its follow-up options too, much like 214A, so it's not nearly as bad. You know what? I think for the same reason of it has the follow-ups, I'll put it on the bottom of the B tier. Just because I think it has options and follow-ups too. It doesn't make it C tier. It makes it somewhat viable, and it has that niche use where it can be good for catching and jump-ins. Yeah, I think low B tier is a good place for it. Not really a move I like using too much. Very niche, but the niche isn't that horrible, I guess. The more I look at it, and the more I'm like, the other moves in it, yeah, go back to C tier. Alright. 214XA is definitely just a straight up bad move. Almost D tier worthy. God, it's like there is not a lot of use cases, I think, for 214AA or 214XA. Like, even as if for its intended purpose, which is supposed to be like, oh yeah, I want to use this as a like, oh yeah, I'm expecting to move horizontally after my 214 or B or 214A. Surely this will hit them. It usually doesn't. It has a very pitiful hitbox in this game. Um, it's like bad for that one use case, and that's the only really use case I think it has. I can't see any other uses for it. It's just like expecting them to move forward after you do 214A, 214B, and it's just bad for that. And like, God, if they block it, it has such horrible frame advantage. Like, it's like minus 16 or something. Let me find out. Just follow-ups. Minus 21. If some characters, like depending on the range, can straight up just run up and just hit you. For this, like, this move is so bad on block, and there's not a lot of reward for it too. Like, the Oki off it is also really bad. Like, they tech before you can really get anything off it. Like, the only use for it is just like in resonance to get a little bit extra damage for it. Like before you cash out into super. That's the only good use for it. Only good. Beside that, this move is so bad. God, who made this? Who made this so bad? So useless. Thankfully, unlike some other moves, it's kind of easily avoidable because it's basically a Rekka option, but like, ugh. Yeah. It might even be worse than 236A. I'm not gonna lie. At least I feel happy when my 236A works. When my 214AX works, I'm just like, nah. I'm never impressed. Alright. I almost thought this is 214C. No, this is 214AB. I'm a big fan of 214AB, honestly. I don't think it's necessarily A tier. I do like using it though. It's nice for one of those situations where like you don't hit the 214A and you expecting them to kind of like jump. This can be a very good air control tool. It's kind of slow because you also have to like keep in mind like it's not reliable because it's like, yeah, you have to get through like 214A first and then do the follow up, which is, yeah, like, let's say you want to use like 31 frames. So there's that. So it's not necessarily the most reliable thing, but I think that niche is actually genuinely very good, especially for people that are very antsy to jump in and see you whiff a button. It can just be very good at stopping their momentum. Move is generally pretty hard to punish from that range, so yeah, it's like minus 12. Why is this minus 12? This minus 21? Jesus Christ. Yeah, it has that nice niche use. And if it hits high enough counter hit, you could also convert off it, which is cool. Yeah, I think it's a good follow-up option from 214A and 214B just because of that one use. Yeah, nothing more to say about it. Good at catching people trying to jump in while you whiffed a 214A or 214B. That's about it. But alright, that's Aerial Leap. Very, very fun, very good move. Yeah, you know, I think Orie is easily Orie's strongest follow-up option off 214A or 214B. As a movement tool, it's great. It can if you see the opportunity, like let's say they halt themselves to kind of play around 2-1-4-A, you can use this plus an assist to like really catch them off guard, or at the very least get in. Um, Very strong movement tool for that. Very good for setting up sandwiches. The flip plus assist is like just a strong way. Like say you do 2-1-4-A from like a mid screen, like like kind of in the mid range between them. You can just do the flip afterward plus assist, and that's a good sandwich. Um, like I said, very good for movement and escaping. If someone's kind of running up to a little bit too fast, just like go flip, do like 2-1-4-A and like flip away. The only main downside this move has is that you cannot block during it. You're actionable halfway through, so there's at least that. But it can be kind of volatile if you don't use this in tandem with an assist. But in the scenarios where I'm escaping, it generally doesn't affect me too much because the opponent is usually committing to running forward and I'm just running away. Where you have to be careful about is just for pressure. That's why 2-1 XC plus assist is what I would recommend, just so they don't go up and air you. So I think that one main flaw can be covered like very, very well. And if you're using for neutral too, I should say, good amount of characters just with air control will help you out. Just make sure that if you're approaching using it, you don't get punished. That's a bit harder compared to the other two use cases for it, but still, that's good. So yeah, I genuinely think this is a very strong move. Doesn't have a lot of caveats to it. Not particularly niched. Very good. Very good movement option. Yeah, it's a lot of good uses. Solid 8 here. All right. J.AA. This is kind of a weird move to evaluate because, like, as a neutral tool, it's horrible. You think it'd just be air 2-1-4-A. It's not. You don't get any follow-ups from it, unlike that move. Super punishing recovery, like 24 frames of landing recovery. But, it's Orie's primary instant overhead mix-up tool. And just for that, and just because it's the bread and butter of her mix, I can't give it anything lower than, like, a high B tier. I mean, there's not a lot of characters in this game that have, like, their instant overheads also be neutral options. Like, the exceptions are, like, Celica and, like, Narukami. So the fact that her instant overhead isn't, like, doesn't do anything outside of just being an instant overhead isn't necessarily that bad. Yeah, I mean, 21 frames, very solid. That's, decently reactable, but you can do stuff from, like, 2A to, like, kind of mix up your pressure options, kind of make your opponent guess when you're going to be going for the overhead, or sometimes just catch the blow. Very good for that. Yeah. I should definitely mention this is, like, very much needed to do double overhead setups, or triple overhead setups. You get j.AA from jump ins. That's kind of very much a strong thing about this move is the fact that when you use it, it immediately stops your air momentum, so you can, like, get really close to the ground and still J2-1-4-A to hit them with the overhead, and that is definitely a very strong aspect of J2-1-4-A for mixes. I think because of that, I'll definitely put it, like, high end of B tier. Yeah, don't necessarily think it's as good as the other moves, just because, like, it's not as flexible or not as useful in more situations, but like definitely top of B tier. Bread and butter for mixes. It's so good. All right, let's get on into J214B, the freaking Orie player's pet favorite move. I'm trying to be as objective as possible and not like for this and not just spout the meme. But know in your heart that there is a church of J214B and that you should go to it, but it's not a very good move. It really it has its niche. It has its niche. And that is like kind of the reason I'm putting it in C tier. The niche is just like, yeah, sometimes your opponent is popping off too hard and you just throw it at J214B and they get hit with it, and then like you get a conversion off it. Like sometimes that will work. And when it works, it is the most hilarious thing ever. But besides that, it's kind of mediocre. Very punishing if you whiff it. Doesn't even have a very good hitbox despite how it looks. Not very good for neutral because of that. It's just a funny meme option. I mean, the meme works. It's not useless. I'll give it that. It's not as like infuriating as some of the other moves in C tier. Yeah, it's a C tier move. I don't know what I can say. I feel like I got crucified by some other people, but we'll get to that when we get to that. Alright, 2-1 for C. 2-1 for C is bad. It's like, just as a metered move, there's like no reason to use it. Or he has so much better options to cover the air. Like, I mean, there's like Oblite's Edge. Like, it reaches decently far, don't get me wrong, but like it's not fast enough to like really be used over 2B. The fact that it's metered is just like you're wasting a resource. It's only used as a combo extender. I'm genuinely trying to think of a reason you would use 2-1 for C. We'll figure it out when I start playing the music again. What do I want? Facilities? Yeah.
I decided to make it my personal mission to get revenge on this scammer.
Okay. This ad is kind of popping off. All right, we're back to evaluating Orie buttons. The real point of this podcast. Yeah, that move's just bad. There's no use case for it. There's no reason to use it over any other move that like hits in the air. Just genuinely terrible. J2-1 for C, on the other hand, definitely is a lot better. It has its role, and that is to bait anti-airs, or air stall, either one. Well, I guess baiting anti-airs with air stall is more specifically what it is. Yeah, very solid button. Fills its niche very well. Just air stalling, preventing people. That just like you're descending and you just say pull out the J2-1 for C, catch them, hit them, get some nice damage. Maybe get a conversion depending on where you are. If you're willing to spend assist gauge, like very good for that. The only problem is if you start doing it too much, people just start air to airing you. That kind of sucks. So it's not just as like just yeah. If they're gonna anti-air me, clearly, I'll just use this. It's not as black and white as that. So I think as a result, Yeah, B tier. Probably I should probably put JC over JP. Yeah, that seems about right. Service niche, very very solid for doing that. I don't know what more to say. Just bait those anti-airs with it. Alright, specials. Supers. I'm trying to debate what I want to rate these for. I'll rate them as reversals or just chucking them out. And I mean, T36B plus C. It's nice. With certain teams, you can get a safe super setup with some projectiles with this. But besides that, I'm honestly never been too impressed for it. It just doesn't have a very good vertical hitbox, so you can't really catch people all too often. Let me double check that. Yeah, not really that great. Like, yeah, sure, it has that niche with like sometimes you do assist plus super, and you're like, yeah, safe reversal, cool. Not anything actually that special. Just by itself, it's a mediocre reversal tool, kind of easy to punish. Yeah, most of the time, just use DP. Doesn't even do that much damage, so your reward off it is like, eh. Luminous Embrace, I also kind of feel it's definitely worse. You'd think having a full screen, like kind of check tool to some things would be nice, but most of the time I'm just always incredibly disappointed by it. It can't be D tier obviously, but like, yeah. Yeah. I'm never excited to use this move. It has the very nice vertical reach, don't get me wrong, so it's nice for catching people directly on top of you. But as a full screen check tool, it's pretty bad. Let me check how fast it is actually. I mean, that's what I'm on the screen for. Oh yeah, they're both the same. I think these two kind of ride and die together because they have their ups and downs for using them against each other. Like, just because of the vertical reach, I think I'm going to be a little bit more lenient on Luminous Embrace, but it doesn't have like the nice thing where you can sometimes get a safe what's it called? Safe reversal super option. So like they're, yeah, I'm not too big fan of them. They're, yeah, I'll probably put them there. Not too big a fan of Orie supers, at least as reversal options. Orie Astral on the other hand, actually, like, in terms of Astrals, unironically, like, kind of good. Full screen, horizontal tracking super, that has a very much active lingering hitbox. It can just be good to remind people that they can't do stuff from full screen. I mean, obviously you're not going to be having Astral up at all times because it's freaking Astral, but just throwing it out there sometimes for the people that don't know that this is a, like, full screen lingering Astral option, like, it's just good for, like, kind of, making, like, projectile characters think. It's definitely very niche, like, too niche for me to call it generally good. But, yeah. I'm gonna put 2C. I know I'm changing stuff while I'm talking about other things, but I just always get freaking distracted. Oh, that's 5BB. There's 2C. Yeah, put it there. Then. Yeah, I'll probably put them in the same, like, lower end there. Yeah. It's nice for just deterring people from throwing out projectiles from anywhere the screen. Besides that, it's not that great of reversal. Alright. Orie's assists. Now obviously these are going to be very different ratings compared to everything else just because they're her assists. And yeah, I don't know how to feel about placing 4P, because 4P given the right character is arguably her best assist. Borderline A tier, but as a general use assist, it's kind of bad. Definitely at least top of B tier. I'll be generous. I'll say it's A tier. Obviously, it takes the place of what would normally be an anti-air for most characters of the 4P slot. But, like, I think just, like, rating it on the merits of itself, it's just a really, really strong assist. And that's for many reasons. Unpush blockable lockdown, I think, is the main one. Very good for just swapping into your opponent, or not swapping in. Your partner to kind of use it for pressure. If they have strong mix, they're going to appreciate 4P because it's very active, super good lockdown, completely unpush blockable. You get some disgusting mix going off it. Like, Narukami is probably, like, the best user of it. And, like, just imagining that is horrifying. Like, very strong corner pressure assist, and very strong, I think, for sandwiches, too, because, another interesting aspect of this is even if you active swap or call cross combo with it, it still comes out. So it's very good for, like, sandwiches, just to do an empty AS into it. Like, it'll catch a lot of people off guard. Like, you put a small enough gap and just do the empty AS, it's just like, whoa, I can't react to that. And if they do block it, you get the block stun from 4P too. It's, like, very good. The application where you CC and it still comes out too is because Orie, when you CC, becomes intangible. So this thing, like, will always come out if you CC, and that can be very strong for getting you out of some scenarios. It can be very strong for, like, setting up in neutral and deterring people from approaching. That's because Orie is safe. Starting cross combo pressure that way is very strong. That's something definitely, like, Lotad did a lot, and not a lot of teams necessarily can do that, but, like, it's a strong tool to have in that regard. But yeah, strong pressure tool. Decent, like, deterrent for approaches depending on the matchup, especially if you have CC. Yeah, the only problem is like, if your character doesn't have an anti-air and needs an anti-air assist, like, Orie 4P won't do that, but that's more to do so about how Orie's assist kit is structured rather than a problem with 4P in of itself. Yeah. Let's get on into 5P. 5P is very, like, standard, very okay, very solid assist, decent, like, okay block stun. Like, sorry, I'm drawing a blank. Oh, yeah. Covers a decent space in neutral, very easy to convert off of. Incredibly good damage, which I think is the main appeal of it. Like, this thing, I don't know what is about it, but, like, it just scales incredibly well. So it's good for those loops. Yeah, it's a solid enough assist. It's not super niche. Does its job decently well. Yeah. good. It's good. What other like use cases of 5 p.m. I thinking about? Because it's like such a basic assist that I don't have much to say about it. Yeah. Can't really think of anything. Alright, 6P. 6P is probably her worst assist, but that's not saying too much. I think it's unironically probably about as good as 236B. Decent lockdown, covers good amount of space in neutral. Obviously, most characters would prefer a bullet assist. It's good for getting Orie in, I guess. Yeah, maybe not necessarily as good. I'll put it probably down here. Okay, block stun. It's not a super impressive assist, but it's not mediocre or bad. It's just okay. The main use of you want to use 6P for is for fuzzies, because it's a single hit assist. And it's very good for setting up fuzzies. I think that's the main reason why I put it in B. It's just because of that use case for it. And it's not nearly, I think, as niche as the other two, just because, like, yeah, it'll cover space in neutral, it'll do its job okay. Maybe not as good as some other characters, but yeah, it's an okay assist. And yeah, that's it for the tier list. Let me look over it real quick, see if I disagree with any of the placings. Okay, maybe 5P is definitely not nearly as good as most of this stuff. Yeah. I think for the most part, this definitely is how I feel about like Orie is just moves. Yeah. Like I said, this entire thing is very much unscripted. I just kind of did it just as, you know, test the waters, see how I would like doing, like, I guess, a podcasty type of video. Yeah. No, I hope you enjoyed it. I want to do more of these in the future. Like I said earlier, going to be probably featuring other guests, other Orie players on here, and we're going to be talking about just whatever. I don't exactly have a plan for most of this. We're just kind of go as we go. But next episode will be a Orie synergy tier list with Mesa. So look forward to that whenever that gets going. I don't really know when we'll be doing that, or when this video will be uploaded. It is the 23rd for me right now. So I don't know. Expect it in a week, 2 weeks, 3 months. I don't know. But yeah, I will catch you guys later, and hope you enjoyed.